Okay, so welcome everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 11th. This is our Tools for Business Effectiveness class. And um, today we're going to talk about return on impact. And some of you may have done this exercise before. So I want to walk you through the exercise first. Then I will turn the recording off and then we'll have a discussion about it and we'll get your questions, your insights, and we'll also get updates from you guys on kind of how you're doing. But this tool is really, really important because we all have lots of things we have to do. And especially people in this group, a lot of you have different income streams or different projects you're trying to complete. So you have a lot of things that are going on that are different. And we tend to run out of time really quickly. So one thing that's important is to think about, well, what's the best use of my time? And in order to have you always working on the most important thing, we use the 80-20 rule, which you're probably all familiar with, but it basically says that 20% of our effort yields 80% of our results. So the tool that I'm about to show you is a great tool for identifying your 20%. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do everything on your to-do list. But what it means is you're always going to know the things on your to-do list that are going to get you the most mileage. And the idea is you want to do those first, or at least touch on those things every day so that you're moving forward on those things that are going to get you the most benefit. And then you still have to do all the other things on your to-do list. So this is going to ultimately, because we're going to go through a whole process here, it's ultimately going to be a 4-column table. So you might want to take a piece of paper and do it landscape, which landscape is this way, and do your 4 columns. And I would say in your 4 columns, the first column should actually be the widest. So right now I have my second column the widest on the screen, but the reason I have the second column the widest on the screen is only because I have a lot of words in the title box. So normally if I was going to do this diagram and walk through this process, I would do a 4-column table and the first column would be the widest because the second 3 columns are all going to be numbers. All right. So, but right now we're only going to deal with the first 2 columns and we're going to deal with the most important part of this tool, which is your key objective. And I want you to do some thinking about your key objective. So your key objective, getting that right is going to make all the difference in the world when it comes to how useful this tool will be for you. So if you get mushy about your key objective, you won't get good data. So you won't get good results. So it's really, really important to spend some time thinking about key objective. And I'm going to give an example because it was a great example. I've had 2 accounting people that I've coached, and my job was to coach them into leaders. And both of those accounting people were very much caught up in what their department was supposed to do, which is get the financial reports done and done accurately by the end of the month and do a really great month-end close. But what would happen is they would get so involved in getting those things done that the quote unquote leadership stuff would always take a back burner because there were always deadlines. There were always accounting things that had to be figured out in order to make sure things were accurate. There were always things that had to be done to get the reports out, and the reports always had to get out. So that was this constant pressure. So I went through this exercise with one of the people in accounting and I said, what is your key objective? And I just want to hear from you guys what you think the key objective was. So whoever's willing to just shout it out, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself to do that, of course.
I don't know, it just sounded like get the accounting reports out on time and accurate.
Yeah. Anyone have a different answer? So what Krista said is, go ahead, Angela.
Well, if they were hired you to teach them to be leaders, then that was probably the key objective to me.
Right. Right, and how would you phrase the key objective in that case?
The key objective, well, they still, I'm sure they still wanted to do the other job they were great at, but they wanted to increase their skills around leadership.
Right, so is my key objective to increase my skills, or what is my key objective if I'm the
Oh,
leader of that department?
so they want them to lead something.
Okay, but leading, is that a result or is that an activity?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
see,
mean,
it's hard to think through. I'm forcing this issue because
yeah,
this is exactly what the people that I was coaching were struggling with.
it sounded like they wanted them to move from just accounting to a role in leadership in some
Well,
way.
this person was managing an accounting department,
Mm.
and they were overwhelmed, almost so overwhelmed that they didn't feel like they had time for their coaching sessions. And I was supposed to work with them to become more effective in their leadership. So I wanted to use this tool. So what do you think that their key objective was? Vicki, were you about to speak up?
Well, I think a critical component of leadership is communication. And so
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, you've got whatever material you've got, right? So this case, it's an accurate and up-to-date financial report. But to be able to communicate that, facilitate questions, make sure that the right people who have an impact are aware and identified. So, I mean, I would see that leadership is the result, and then what are the means or the mechanisms to get there? So communication being one, and two-way communication, not just pushing out the update, but collecting questions or, informing and consulting those two pieces, the correct people.
Mhm.
So those are the thoughts that come to mind for me.
Yeah, those are all great spots. So get the financial reports out. Get them done by the end of the month. Get them out. That's obviously the objective of the department, to get that work done. What Angela brought up is build my leadership skills. And that's obviously an important thing to do, right? Become a leader, build my leadership skills. And then what Vicki said, I need to be able to communicate more effectively and facilitate this process, right? But what I would say is, if you are the leader of your department and you were going to summarize your key objective into one sentence, it would likely be build a team to achieve the objective of the department. So in this case, the accounting department's objective was to get all the reports done well and accurately by the end of the year. So, or at the end of every month. So it would be to build a team that competently and effectively completes the accounting reports accurately by the end of each month. Now that was too many words, but that's the general idea. But the reason I pointed that out is just to share with you, isn't it hard to identify the key objective? Because if you're not clear on your key objective, so if I was thinking about communication and facilitation as my key objective, then how I would score my activities would be a lot different, because I would say, so let me just move to what you're going to be doing in these two columns. In the first column, you list all of the activities that you do in a given day, including responding to email, responding to phone calls, running financial reports, helping someone work through a problem, just any kind of thing that you would do during the day. And you try to be as complete as possible within the realm of that objective. So, you don't have to put driving my car to work or going and getting groceries, because those have nothing to do with this part of your life. And then what you're going to do is you're going to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 each activity based on how this particular activity done well has on my key objective. Okay. So if I go, and let's just use an example here. So if I know that my key objective is building a team that gets financial reports out on time, or out accurately and on time, let's say, that's going to be different than getting financial reports out on time, which is going to be different than building my leadership skills, which is going to be different than communicating and facilitating effectively. And either way, I didn't even have on here an item that said, communicate with other departments, but I have answered phone calls from other departments, right? That's going to go from a 3 to a 9 or a 10 if you look at all these other things, that's going to go from a 3 to a 9 or a 10 if my communication with other departments is my key objective. Doing financial reports is going to be a 10 if getting the financial reports out on time is the primary objective. Mentoring and guiding the team is a 10 if building a team that gets financial reports out on time, right? And maybe working with my coach is the 10 if it's building my leadership skills. So that's why understanding your key objective is really, really important when doing this activity. So I'd like you all to think right now about something that you'd like to learn about in your life. It could be one aspect of your job, or it could be your whole life, but something with a key objective. And if you'd like, and I'll go ahead and pause the recording so that nothing is revealed here. So let me go and pause the recording. And that way we can go around the room and talk. Okay, so for those of you that are listening to the recording, we're back and we had this really nice long discussion on our different key objectives. And where we're at right now is we're going to actually do the exercise. So I'd like you to take out your paper. And remember, eventually you're going to have 4 columns, but for now you're just going to do the 2 columns. And you're going to do your list of activities. And I have my example right here. This is for my accounting person whose key objective is to build a team that gets financial reports out on time. And so her activities during the day might be doing the financial reports, mentoring and guiding her team, putting processes in place to help the team learn, work with the team to correct mistakes, answer email, answer phone calls from other departments. And then for each of these things, she has to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 as to how much this particular activity all by itself impacts the key objective. And what we discussed is if her key objective is to get the financial reports out on time, then doing the financial reports themselves gets a 10. But if her key objective is building a team that gets financial results on time, then that goes down to a 7, and mentoring and guiding her team goes up to a 10. If accuracy is in the objective, then this number might go up or down, working with the team to correct mistakes, right? Putting processes in place to help the team learn goes really well with building a team, but it wouldn't probably have a very high score at all if you had your key objective just be getting the financial reports out on time. And we had some people share things like, communicating with the rest of with other departments or communicating within the department. And so in that case, if the communication was really important, then answering phone calls, answering emails would go up, and working with the team would probably stay up. So, all of this communication stuff, and there may be different things like running meetings that I didn't even put on here. So the biggest challenge is finding the right key objective. The second biggest challenge is getting all the activities in column 1. So I hope you guys are just doing that while I'm babbling here and then going ahead and rating it. Okay. And I'm going to ask you, for the purposes of this exercise, to have at least 10 things on your list of activities related to this, at least 10, but don't go any more than 20. All right. And I don't know if you guys need more time. I can't see everybody, but maybe you can chat in if you need more time or how much more time you think you might need, or just motion to me more time.
30 seconds to a minute.
Okay, I'm going to put my timer on for a minute. If you guys have any questions during this minute, you're welcome to chime in or chat them in or whatever. I think I'll get a little notification. Oh, I did. A question that comes up a lot is people start looking at all these activities and they say, well, done together, they have a big impact. And one of the things that's very specific is that each activity you want to score by itself. So I know that you're not going to only do mentoring and not do anything else. But the idea is if I do mentoring really, really well, how much does mentoring lead to my objective? If I correct mistakes really, really well, how much does that lead to my objective? Excuse me. If I answer email really, really well, how much is that? So you do kind of have to look at it as if I was doing this and nothing else, even though you know you're not going to be not doing other things. It just really, really helps you just get a sense for each item on its own. All right, well, apparently my phone went off already and I just didn't hear it because it's on a different headset. So let's come back, and I guess I'd like to hear any questions that you have or any interesting insights that you had. So I'll just kind of go down the room and do that. And if you don't mind, I do still have the recording on because I think your questions are probably going to be good ones. So just knowing that the recording's on, if you have a question that you don't want to ask on the recording, then you can pass on that one until I stop the recording again next. But just as a result here, keep in mind that since we're talking about 20% leading to 80% of your result, then if you have 10 items on your list, it's the top 2 that's your 20%. If you have 20 items on your list, it's the top 4 that's the 20%. So what do we do with a list once it's complete? We recognize our top 20, and you're going to immediately have this reaction, well, I have to do these other things, even though they're twos, 3s, or 4s. I mean, I can't just not answer my email, even though it's a 2 on here. And you're absolutely right. You have to do everything. But the things that are in the top 20%, because those are the things that are going to get you 80% your result, those are the kinds of things that you want to do more frequently and spend more time on if you can. So they might be the things that you bite into first thing in the morning, or they might be things that you say, no matter what, I'm going to spend 30 minutes on this every day before I get to the rest of what I do. So that's kind of how you look at your 20%. You make sure that 20% is getting addressed on a regular and consistent basis. And so I have a lot of really, really busy executives, and they're getting pummeled every day by people who need them and by meetings and everything. But if their key objective is to come up with a strategy or review the market or something, that's so nebulous, it's very easy to blow off. But if they don't know all the market factors, they're not going to make good decisions. So this gives them kind of an anchor, like, well, 30 minutes each day I really need to spend on this before I even go into work or something like that. So it really helps with the clarity. So I'm just going to go down the list really, really quickly to hear an insight or a question. Krista?
Yeah, so I chose declutter and clean my house to keep it as a somewhat contained and a little bit more easier manageable task. And then I broke it down basically by room in the house, pretty much, and also like cleaning windows and taking care of repairs. And one of the things I put on there was it's been increasingly bothering me. 11 years ago when I moved into the house, I made the financial decision to have the walls painted, but I thought like the trim and the doors and everything, wasn't that bad. It has bugged me for a long time since then. And I've been thinking about it recently, And now I just notice all the time, you know, baseboards and doors that are scuffed up and just not looking the way I'd like them to look. And so I made that a higher number because I think because it's on my mind a lot, if I take care of it, it'll free up my mental energy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that was just something that, you know, I wanted to minimize it because it feels overwhelming to get that taken care of, but I'm recognizing it's becoming a, you know, kind of a mental drain on me. So it might actually be a priority.
Well, and then when you think about decluttering your house, um, what did you put, if you don't mind sharing, as your key objective?
Oh, I just said, yeah, I just said declutter and clean my house. So I don't know if that's as good.
So, and I think this is a great example. When you declutter and clean your house, what is going to be the result of that for you?
That's a very good question. For me, the result is a peaceful, a peaceful and inviting environment.
There you go. That's your objective. Create a peaceful and inviting environment in my house. So you knew instinctively that anything that drains your energy or bugs you a lot is going to take away from that peace, which is why you scored it high. And so now that we put that as your objective, as you go through your list, things are going to naturally sort in the way that you know that they have to sort, which is what takes away from my peace the most. Make sense?
Mhm.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So Vicki, any insights or anything, any questions?
I like the you know, what is the result, right? And then that helped me really focus on how to rank or how to, you know, scale it 1 to 10. And so my objective is to build a structure for multiple revenue streams with the result being income. So then those items that I think will generate that result get the higher on the scale. And then I like how that, you know, my project management comes into play, and I like how that then forces, okay, these are the things I should work on first.
Yeah, and that's what this is exactly supposed to do. It kind of forces your hand. It forces you to know. You know, once I did this on parenting, and it was awesome because there were all these different things that I could do with my kids. And what I discovered from that is based on what my goal was which was bringing up my kids to be a certain way. The number one thing I could do was role model. And that was such a relief to me because there were other things on the list that I could do that other parents do that they say to do in parenting classes. But when I really paid attention to it, it was like, oh, this is the number one thing that's going to get me there. So sometimes this forcing your hand really, really can be a big weight off your shoulders as well. So thank you for sharing, Vicki. And Angela, what any insights that came up for you or any questions that came up for you? If you're talking, you'll need to come off mute. There you are. You still need to come off mute.
All right. I put down Cabby and learning. Cabby, key objective is staying connected and staying engaged. It's easy not to. And then to study and learn, which I love doing. That's my favorite thing to do. It's just that I guess during this time I have to just kind of do what I need to do, and it'll be done in maybe about a week, and then I can start maybe about a week or two, and then I can start back. There's nothing really I can do more right now, so I can't get upset with myself.
And so I'm going to ask you the same thinking process on both studying and learning. It sounds like a lot of the studying and learning you do to get the joy out of it. Would you say that's true?
I don't know. I just like it. This is different. I'm not as drawn to the learning that I'm learning with this, but I put it down for so long that now I have to figure out where it is. I got to even figure out what the papers are. And that's like this weird block to beginning. Just if I would begin, I think it would, if I already knew where all these papers were and knew where to start and where I was in the videos, I think I'd probably click right in. So I just have to get over doing that. It's some silly little block in my head that really isn't once I do it, I'll be like, why didn't I just do that a long time ago?
Right. So I'm going to ask you to take out a paper.
Mhm.
And the purpose of studying and learning, I'm imagining just from what you just said, is to get your coaching business off the ground, right? You want to get the classes done that you're taking for your certification. Is that what you're talking about when you say study and learning? Yes? Okay. So then what I'd like you to write on the top for key objective is complete my coaching certification program
Mm-hmm.
or complete my and is that accurate? Is that
Yes.
what you mean when you say study and learn? Okay.
Yes.
And so now all those little things like finding the papers, right? Um, that's what I want you to write in your first column. Finding the papers, identifying the first session, maybe allocating time once a day. And then that's what I want you to rate from the 1 to 10.
Oh yeah, no, it's a 10. Yeah. No, I did. I wrote it down.
And then all the little pieces though. So study and learn, I think, is too broad. What you want to write are all those little pieces, the smaller steps. They
Uh-huh.
don't have to be in order, just anything you have to do. So like going and finding the paperwork, right? That could go on under there.
Mm-hmm.
Allocating 5 minutes to it could be on there, right? So these are
Mm-hmm.
just a bunch of different activities, and that'll help you get to the 20% that's going to get you moving on that. It could be your key objective is to get moving or get started on studying and learning, right? And then you're okay. And then on the CABI, I know you said the most important thing is to engage, and I'm guessing those were your 10s, but CABI would be probably something related to income, right? Selling as much. Would that be your key objective? Because you're engaging for a purpose.
Oh yeah, no, I thought about putting that, but then I thought, well, we're all working for money. So I figured that was a given, but
Yeah. Well, that's why, I mean, I know some of this stuff seems really trite when I say it or blasé or whatever, but I think what's really important is people get off track on their activities because they are not really crystal clear on objective. And you can see many people on this call, it's not a natural way of thinking. We tend to think about all the things we have to do. We don't think about, why am I doing this thing? So what
right.
you're identifying is, why am I doing this? So I'm going to say, why do you engage with people at CABI? Why do you want to study and learn, right? And I'm just going to keep asking you why. And when you get to the kind of end result of why, that's actually your key objective. And this particular tool is super, super powerful if you get the right objective. And the reason I'm learning that getting the right objective is so important, and I might end up adding another piece to this tool that helps people discover their objective, is because I'm learning how hard it is. And just engaging in this conversation with you guys is really also helping me understand that identifying the key objective tends to be really, really hard for people. I was coaching a room of doctors, and I had them do this exercise, and I thought it would really help them be really productive. And I had the person who had brought me in sitting next to a doctor, and later she said, you know what, that exercise didn't work at all for him because he had his objective completely wrong, right? He had his objective as limiting his liability, right? And so his objective had nothing to do with what she believed his objective was. But you could see how he would think that, my objective as a doctor is to limit my liability, right? So, we have multiple objectives. And so that's why people say, find out your why, find out your why, find out your why. It can drive you crazy. So thank you guys for being willing to kind of struggle with this on, online here, because I think it's going to be really helpful to anybody that's trying to listen to this. They're really going to understand, oh yeah, I see how I'm just thinking about what I have to do. I'm not really thinking about my why. So
Nice.
yeah. Yeah.
Said to me, I said, well, money's a given. But the thing is, you're right that it really matters, because once I was thinking about it, if I filter why am I doing CABI through connection or filter it through money, I'm going to focus on really different things. And you're right, it really is money. Connection is how I do it. So I really filter everything through money. And you're right, this is kind of hard to figure out and to break down the other things. Like, I'm like, well, I got to learn. And I told you it was stopping me into, like, I wouldn't have thought to break it down that little. like spend 5 minutes, you know.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
because really you want to learn, but why do you want to learn? Like, do you want to learn because you're Angela and you want to be smart and you love learning? Because that's part of you, that's part of your value system. Or, but then I realized even when you started talking about it, that what you wanted to learn was the stuff very specific to the coaching classes you took because you want to complete the certification. So your real objective in that one is to complete the certification.
Mhm.
It's like you want to get that out of the way before you make any decisions about the next step, and you can't make any decisions. So that is your kind of why, that's your objective for that. And then your objective for Cabby absolutely is bringing in income.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
You're welcome. So Sandra, what's come up for you?
You know what? I'm gonna pass because this is all very helpful. I'm redoing my objectives. So.
Yeah, redoing it. Got it. Absolutely. All right. Well, what I want to do, I'm trying to see what our time is. Yep, we're getting close on time. So what I want to do for you guys is just share how I tie this to the return on energy tool. Um, and if you want, you could do a print screen. If you have this on your screen, you might want to do a print screen right now because this kind of has the whole thing. So if the return on energy tool is a very popular tool that I have, and it's really just tacked onto the other onto the end of the return on impact. So everything that you do in the first two columns and identifying your key objective, that is all the same. And you have to spend just as much care with it. But what this does is it adds a third column, which is this energizing or draining, and you score it from a -5 to a +5, right? So you think about negative numbers as the degree to which this drains me, right? And your positive numbers are the degree to which this energizes me. And so maybe if I go back to my financial manager, this person hates mentoring their employees, hates mentoring. So that gets a -5. And so even if it was scored as a 10, it goes down to a 5 when you add the two columns together and you get your final return on energy score. So what this takes into advantage is not just the tasks, which tasks are going to get you the best impact, but it also takes into account if certain tasks are more draining than others. And the best example that I can come up for this is if you're applying it to a sales situation or to a small business. So my key objective is to bring in revenue. And so if I think about everything related to bringing in revenue, often the thing that's going to be the most directly related to bringing in revenue is making phone calls, out calls, and actually asking people, hey, I've got this program coming up, or, I've got this great outfit, would you be interested? And that can be awkward and uncomfortable for people. And people tend to blow that off unless they're really natural at it. But for most people, they're not that natural at it. They really don't want to just bug people and call them to ask them for business. And it's very, very draining. So often I will use this in a situation where people are thinking about their sales strategy. And what you'll find is that there are some things that may be a 6 or a 7 on impact, right? Like sending out emails to people, or um, in my case, having a free class where I bring people in and then I invite everybody to the free class. And then in the free class, there's a flyer that talks about a program. That's really fun to me. It doesn't drain me at all. So because that energizes me, I do more of that. And I may not get as much business that way, but that way I ensure that my business is more enjoyable for me and I'm not putting myself out of my comfort zone when I really don't want to go out of my comfort zone. So some people want to push themselves out of their comfort zone to get better results, and that's fine too. But this energizing or draining, it really helps you, I guess, make what you're doing fun, make it more aligned with what you naturally enjoy doing. And then basically you're just adding up these two scores. So when something drains you, it's going to have a negative number here. So it's going to bring your impact score down. And if you have something that's really energizing, that really energizes you, that you enjoy doing, it's going to add on and bring your score up. And then your final range of scores goes from about a -5 to a +15. And so then I just have people divided into thirds and say, capitalize on your top third, um, Looks like someone's got to leave and we're getting to the end here. Yep. Thanks. Thank you, Vicki, for being on. And then middle third is systemize, and bottom third is contain. So I have gone over today, but I just want to thank you all for being here. And if you have any questions that I really didn't address today, just because we did go a little bit over, feel free to reach out via email, etc. And I know most of you will be on our Friday call. So I look forward to seeing you all then. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.